welcome to another episode of Turn Left. I am your host, Indiana's own Dana Black, coming to you live, yes, all the way live from Black Pearl Studios, where we talk about Indiana politics from the left side of things. Okay, I'm going to start on a somber note first. Tuesday was rough. We had a bad day. Okay, we're going to get that out there. We had a bad day. We didn't mean it. It didn't mean to happen that way. It just happened. Some things happen that way. But we already knew that Virginia flips back and forth, right? We know that. We know whoever's in office is going to flip back the other way, except for that 1 year that brother was in office. Okay, it happens. And we just going to pick our head up and keep it moving. Now, I don't know how much solace I can take from the fact that the person that won actually distanced themselves from the Orange Menace. That might be a good thing. Maybe some of those folks on the other side don't want to destroy our entire country. Maybe they don't want us to fall off into the abyss. Maybe. But you know, I know about them wolves in sheep clothing. So we're going to wait and see. And hopefully, you know, he won't be so terrible for the people of Virginia. But what is the lesson that we really learned, though? We know the blueprint right now for 2022. We know what the blueprint is. And it is another racialized boogeyman. And it works every time. It's not the first time. Willie Horton, it's not the first time. Welfare Queens, it's not the first time. Caravans, see the pattern, understand the pattern, and be ready to fight against it. Okay? It happened, it worked. And they're telling you this is what they're going to do. Now, if we fail to react and act something as Democrats to counteract this mythical, racialized boogeyman, that's on us. We know what we got to do is right there in front of us. Now, one of the things I think that we could have done better is talk about what we have accomplished so far. Our infrastructure plan is coming around, still working on some bugs there. You know, we had the first plan that was initialized by Joe Biden at the beginning of the year. We got some money in people's pockets and we're helping them out. But I will say this, and y'all know me, I don't diss on Democrats. I just ain't gonna do it. It ain't in my heart to do. But I need Senator Joe Manchin. Did y'all see that interview today? Did y'all see that? I saw it. I saw him on Joe Scarborough, Morning Joe this morning, and I wasn't exactly sure if he was speaking for us or speaking for them, because all those talking points were very reminiscent of what they were saying. But the key takeaway from all of that, if y'all didn't catch it, he wants to slow this down. Why? Why does he want to slow down the Build Back Better plan? Why? Why? There are people in need. There are people desperately in need. And we saw that paid leave was added back into the plan, and he is against that. Well, I thought the response to that by Representative Jayapal was, you know, I think there are a lot of women upset that one dude is trying to prevent women from having maternity leave. I thought that was right on. That was spot on. I thought that was spot on. So we need to, you know, talk to our man Manchin. I know that he talks about what West Virginia wants and blah, 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 but it's, you know, they're not in a much better economic state than a lot of other people, and there are people struggling in West Virginia. So I'm certain those folks could use that help that he's slowing down. I'm just saying, he's a Democrat. He's with us about 60% of the time. We're going to go with it, but we got to do better because there's a lot of real issues out here. People are struggling. People are struggling. So hopefully we can get that move forward. And today, there's no better guest that I can have on. No better guest. See, y'all thought I was playing, didn't you? Y'all thought I was playing. Y'all didn't. Come on now. You know I'm going to have the candidates, but if we're going to have the candidates that come on Turn Left, we got to talk about the leadership of our party. You know I'm blue, true blue through and through. So I am super duper, incredibly excited to have both the chair and the vice chair of our Indiana Democratic Party with us today. First up, newly elected, reorg. Dun, 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 dun. I'm going to let him tell you his own story, but you know who he was hanging out with. You know who he was hanging out. All the way from South Bend, representing our party from South Bend. Give it up for our chairman, Mike Schmuhl. Welcome to the show.
Hello. Good to be with you, Dana. How are you?
And of course, the fabulous one from Marion County, holding it down, Madam Clerk on her second visit to Turn Left. Y'all give it up for the Honorable Mila Eldridge, the Vice Chair. Mila, welcome to the show.
Good evening. Thank you so much for having us on the show.
I love it. I'm excited that you guys are both here. Thank you so very much for making time, because you know what, our listeners want to know, what is the plan? But before we get there, Mike, normally I go ladies first, but the folks don't really know you yet, especially in the southern part of Indiana. A lot of folks may not. Tell the people who you are and where you come from.
Well, thanks, Dana, for having us today. It's great to be on the show. Yeah, so I'm born and raised South Bend, Indiana boy. So I am chatting with you here from South Bend, my hometown. I was born and raised here, only child. My parents both, my dad was a professor at Notre Dame. My mom's a special ed teacher, retired. But I grew up here. I went to school here. I went to Notre Dame. I went away for just a few years, and I wanted to have a big career in journalism. And I worked for a couple really amazing organizations. Number one was Meet the Press with Tim Russert, who was the host for a
Oh,
very long time, who passed away in
yeah.
2008. So I interned for that show, and then I worked at the Washington Post for 3 years. So the Republicans, I think, like to say I'm a DC operative, but all of my political career has been in the Hoosier State. And so I moved home in '09 to work for my hometown congressman, who at the time was Joe Donnelly. And it's actually very similar, and I hope we get into it tonight. But 2009, some very similar dynamics to today, to 2021, especially what happened in Virginia and New Jersey this week. So I moved home to work for Joe, and I was working in his congressional office and doing constituent service and all of that. And he asked me to run his reelection campaign in 2010. And I had never worked on a campaign before. And so it was pretty amazing. I tell this story a lot when I talk to students and kids who are interested in working in politics and government. So he took a shot on me. And so we won that race, very tough year. And then the year after that, I reconnected with a friend from growing up, who we probably all know now. Goes by Mayor Pete, now I think
Don't
Secretary
nobody
Mayor
know who
Pete,
he is. Come on.
or Sec Pete, all these different names. But Pete had run statewide for treasurer in Indiana and lost big. But a lot of folks around here wanted him to run for mayor, and so he asked me to run his campaign for mayor. Won that race. Asked me to be his chief of staff in City Hall. I did that as well. Also got my first taste of party politics a little bit. Took some time off from politics, graduate school and other things, but really, continued to work in Hoosier politics in one form or another. Worked for Shelley Yoder, who's now state senator Shelley Yoder
One of my
down in
faves.
Bloomington. She's amazing. Love working with Shelley. Worked with Mel Hall, who was a businessman who ran up here against
And two.
Jackie Walorski
Yeah.
in 2018. And so worked with him. And then at the end of 2018, that same year, moved back to my hometown, moved back to South Bend to work on a political project that grew to be very, very big. So at the beginning, it was me and a few people with Wi-Fi hotspots and donated furniture and some ideas. And it grew into a huge operation, a huge campaign, Pete for America. So at the end of the day, we hired 600 staff.
Wow.
Headquartered here in South Bend, about 200 staff or so in this community. Something that I was really proud of. And so, Pete did great out of the gate, Iowa, and then toe to toe with Bernie Sanders in New Hampshire. And then, it kind of faded there, and he got behind now President Joe Biden.
Yeah,
And
that
so,
Clyburn kingmaker right there.
yeah, yes, Jim Clyburn, yes, absolutely, a huge endorsement
Yeah.
there in South Carolina for now President Biden. But did all of that, and in the aftermath of the campaign, took some time off and was thinking through some other things, and decided earlier this year to seek this office. And
Okay.
it really has been an honor to be in the role now for I think 7.5 months. You can believe that. So
We're gonna get
we
to
are.
that. We're definitely gonna get to that.
Yeah.
Honorable Mila, Clerk Mila, tell the people who you are and where you come from.
Who is Mila? Mila is an African American woman that
Hey.
has a heart that cares about what happens to people. I come from a family of voters. I have worked under several administrations, beginning with the current administration, the O'Bannon administration first, then the current administration. When I was old enough to vote, which is the 18 years of age, I registered and I've been working in government ever since. So I have
Wow.
30 plus years of government under my belt. I began working the polls at the age of 18. And after working in state government, um, city government, working under the Peterson administration, then I landed in county government, working under our former clerk, Beth
That's
White.
white.
But
Yep.
I think what makes my story interesting is that when Melina Kennedy, a woman, decided to run for prosecutor, that I feel that's really when my political career and my passion for those that are less fortunate
Mm.
than us began, because when Melina Kennedy ran for prosecutor, I saw where there were individuals that voters, not
Mm-hmm.
individuals, voters that would vote for her, but may not be able to give her a dime,
Right. Right.
but would vote for her. So I decided to host a meet and greet for her to give these voters an opportunity to touch her,
Right.
because they may never be able to attend a fundraiser, $100 fundraiser,
Exactly.
a
Exactly.
$50 fundraiser, a
Yeah.
$25 fundraiser. So I did that, and here I am today.
I love it. And what most people don't know, like when I was a rookie and I didn't know anything about anything, Mila's campaign was the first time I ever tried to host a fundraiser. I was like, I want to host, and I didn't know what I was doing, but I was gonna try. And it wasn't a lot of people there, but I did.
No.
But that's how far back I've had that pleasure of knowing Mila. And I have to be honest, I'm also a political groupie. So I mean, I have this bad habit of elevating elected officials in my mind because I think they won, and I'm like, ooh, they're great. But now for me, now this you guys can answer this however you will. For me, it was RIFRA. Right? RIFRA was the thing that fired me up. I had always been like the TV watcher, yelling at this TV screen, whatever. But I voted, right? But I wasn't involved. RIFRA made me run for office against the Speaker of the House, and then you get injected, right? They don't tell you, one hit of the politics, you hooked, right? What was the thing that got you guys wanting to be involved in politics?
Mila, you want to go? You want me to go?
Mr. Chair, I have mad respect for my chairman.
Mad
You,
respect.
Okay, look, y'all.
you can go, and then I'll go.
Now I gotta edit that out. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, it's a great question. I mean, I think it's interesting. When I was a journalist, I had a great job. I felt like I had a interesting career path, but nowadays we all have laptops, tablets, all this kind of stuff, and you can open multiple windows, right, on your browser. You can read all these different news stories and sites and email and things like that. I remember when I would go to the newsroom to start my day, I'd open up all the big outlets: New York Times, Washington Post, Washington Times, CBS, ABC, NBC, all these things. But I would always also open SouthBendTribune.com, my hometown paper, just to see what was going on back in my hometown and in my community. And it really came from a sense of seeing the same headlines kind of over and over again and being sort of frustrated and really wanting to move home to make a difference. And Pete writes about this in his book, and it's something that I actually talked about on a call today with some folks, some college Democrats. It sort of felt like I was a smart Hoosier kid, and I was in Washington D.C. And
Right.
why, if I have sort of these talents and I'm really interested in politics and public service, would I just sort of continue to stay there if I was so passionate about it? And so it made me, apply for jobs, look for opportunities, and ultimately I was offered something with Joe, and that really changed everything. It taught me about organizing. It taught me about communications. It taught me about service, constituent service, solving people's problems, traveling around. Back then, a district.
Yeah.
Now we have 9 of those, so it's a
Yeah.
big. But traveling around the district and going everywhere and not being afraid to go into rural, small towns, hamlets, in urban precincts, just going everywhere to talk to people. And so that is why I got involved, was to make a difference in really the community that raised me. And it's pretty remarkable to kind of look back and just see small things that you may have done back then, and see how they've maybe made a difference now,
Mm-hmm.
or things that you've really worked hard at, they are not solved.
Right.
May,
Right.
may not be solved for years or decades. Just
Or lifetimes, you know?
yeah, consistent problems that we just have as people working on problems in governments,
Yeah.
in Indiana, in the U.S., around the world. And so that's how I got involved, and I'm really glad that I did.
Okay. Milo, you just said you had it. You were born into it, right?
Yeah, right. Yeah, I actually come from a family of voters. As a matter of fact, I shared with the Indiana Young Democrats that Birch Bayh knew my grandfather by name, is what I've been told. So anyway, but I think what really caused me to want to get involved in politics, and
Mm-hmm.
not even knowing, is that I've always had a heart, again, even as a kid, from what I've been told. I I care about what happens to people. Like my mom, I'll share a quick story. My mom said one time she bought me a brand new pair of gym shoes, and I literally gave them a pair. How about this? A pair of Chucks. And
Hey, not the Chuck
a pair of
Taylors.
Chucks like that. And she said I literally gave. I probably wore them twice, and I gave them to a friend of mine at school for her gym shoes that were not as new as mine.
Oh.
So yeah, I think it's in your genes, it's in your DNA. And fast forward, becoming clerk of Marion County, I for me, I couldn't think of a better way for me to make a difference while I'm on the face of the earth, and that
Mm-hmm.
is ensuring voters have the right to vote.
Absolutely. But you know what? Let's talk about that clerkship. Because, see, we can't just gloss over that, Madam Clerk. Talk about the historic nature of your election. Come on now.
The historic nature of my election, I assume you're talking about becoming the first African American
You already know.
clerk of Marion County, which is an honor that I don't take lightly. Again, for me, when I ran for the office, I wanted to make a difference, as Chairman Schmuhl said, and I can't think of a better way for me to make a difference by ensuring that Hoosiers and all registered voters just have the right to vote, and to make voting easier and more convenient for everybody, not a particular party.
Right?
For everybody, voting should be, it's your right, right? Once you become a US citizen, it's your right, your duty, and your responsibility to register and to participate in the democracy that serves you. So um again, that's why I'm involved in politics. Again, I'm involved because I feel that everyone should be treated equally. Um, yeah. And
I love it.
so I'm going to do everything I can to continue to fight for the rights of everybody.
Yeah. So
So
we're
that's
going
why I'm involved.
Okay, so we're gonna come back to that voting thing because that's a big topic too. But before we get there, so y'all, real talk, Indiana and the Democrats have been losing and losing badly for a while. You saw that John Zodi was gonna step down, and and Miss Cordelia was gonna step down. And you looked at this job and said, "Yes, I want it." What made you guys decide? I mean, this is a daunting job. What made you guys decide I'm gonna go and run this party? I'm gonna run to run this party.
Yeah, yeah. I don't know if either of us were sort of bouncing on our mother's knees, saying, "Oh, I'm going to be a party chair someday." Working organizational politics, right?
Mhm.
Well, it's interesting, Dana. Like I didn't. At first, I didn't want the job.
I understand.
People were asking me, and I was like, "No, no, no." thankless, difficult, hard, want to do other things, thinking about other stuff. But really a few things happened. You know, I still live in my hometown here in South Bend. Um, and yeah, January 6th happened.
Yeah.
Um, that was a big influencer for me. I sort of saw that and watched that and was really shocked, I think. I mean, it's incredible how, with Trump, that there's just always another level to go of
Mm-hmm.
more and more kind of shock. And so, or distraction. And this was really just sort of pierced the heart of our democracy, literally.
Yep.
People lost their lives. And so I saw that, and then I reflected even more and thought, if I'm here, I've been fortunate enough to manage campaigns and build really big operations, and I've learned a lot of this stuff from working on campaigns of all sizes. Who am I to just kind of work on something else when there's so much at stake?
Yeah.
And when Mila and I came out and started talking about running, we use sort of the analogy, which is a little kind of cliche in Indiana, but we are really at a crossroads, I think.
Mm-hmm.
I think the state's at a crossroads. It's a new decade. I think that our country's at a crossroads. We're trying to, move on from Trumpism. And that's really kind of the fight of our lives right now. And so I just couldn't sit back and not be involved
Mm-hmm.
in a big way. And so that's why I ultimately decided to toss my hat in the ring, and really honored that Mila joined me in that effort. I'm from Northern Indiana. A lot of chairs have been from Marion County.
It's the
Obviously
best
urban
county.
centers,
What?
central part of the state. But I think we're a good balance. Like I'm, campaign guy, northern part of the state, and then as we just said, first African American elected clerk in Marion County, focus on elections and public service and central part of the state. All of that, I think it's a good combo for rebuilding our party.
I love it. I love it. So when he asked Miss Mila, what you say? Huh?
I said, "Who's Mike Schmuhl?" No, actually, when I decided to run for vice chair, and it is because Chairman Schmuhl, and he gets on me because I always call him Chairman Schmuhl.
Yeah, I know.
But it is because he had a vision and a plan, and I liked his number one uh, component of his vision, and that is to win up and down the ballot.
I love it.
His vision is very simple. It's four components. It's organizing all year round. I like that. And just his experience, his
Mm-hmm.
background, and all of that. And he's a great guy. But all of that, mainly his vision, though, is why I decided that, okay, I think we would be a great team. We're known as Eminem, Mike and Mila. I always
Y'all
share
kill me with that.
I shared that, we have Biden and Harris in the White House, and you guys in Indiana have Mike and Mila.
That's what's
Eminem.
up.
So,
That's what's up.
hey, what more can you ask for? But I ran because of Mike's vision.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I think that's cool because and I ain't gonna lie. We talked about Senator Yoder a little while ago. She will have you thinking you can walk to the moon, right? I mean, she's that good. And like she was in my ear, and I'm like, girl, no, that's a real job. I ain't trying to do that. So I'm glad that you guys are taking on the task, and I'm glad that you guys have decided to because this is daunting, right? There's people who are discouraged because we've been losing races, and then they think that we're this 70-30 state when we're not. I don't believe that. So how have the first 7.5 months been for you?
I think really good. My our approach has been, this is the 1 year out of 4 when we have our reorg,
Mm-hmm.
and there's nothing on the ballot.
Right.
It's the 1 year out of 4 where there's no elections, there's no campaigns, there's no sort of that activity. But we came in with an approach that was, we can't treat it like an off year,
There's
because
no such thing as an off year. Right.
yeah, and especially now,
Yeah.
maybe decades ago, yeah, for sure, everybody kind of took the year off and you raised some money and kind of kept the lights on, so to speak, but you really waited to then gear up for the next year or the next cycle. But we live in a world where politics is just sort of infused into everything now, into culture
Everything.
and everything. And so very polarized, so much media, so much attention on issues and things that happen, that we couldn't take the year off. And
No.
frankly, we needed to think about it. We were coming off of COVID. We had a presidential election where the Democrats won, where we really didn't, you know,
We didn't feel
have
like we
no
won. We
we
act
didn't have a
like, I mean,
convention, no
yeah.
door to door, no, events, like, huge engagement with people, getting people out to the polls, like all that sort of the physical kind of emotional nature of
Time
politics
out
is
for just a
really,
second. Somebody got some scratching going on their mic. Who's got the scratching going on? Is
oh,
it,
that might be me.
that's you? Okay,
There
thank
we
you.
go. Sorry. But,
Sorry.
we kind of lost that, the physical element, emotional element of politics in many ways.
Yeah,
People were worried about things that were happening in our country, and um, so we didn't want to treat it as an off year,
right.
and we set out to start these tours, engage with county parties,
Hmm.
fight redistricting, talk about Joe Biden's agenda. Um, you know, have a more inclusive approach with groups that are out there trying to do the right thing, um, hire more team members,
Hmm.
raise more money, try to improve our message. Um, and so that's really what we're doing right now. And we're still doing it. I joke with the team that we're like the Rolling Stones. We're like always on tour, always going somewhere, traveling band all around the state. Um, and I think it's vital
Yeah,
because there's a lot of places we're going, counties that are small, medium, and large, where
absolutely.
um, they've been labeled a certain way over the last decade or so, and they haven't seen Democrats in a while. And we got to go and we got to talk to these folks. We got to listen to them, engage with them, inform them, and continue that into next year and into the elections ahead.
I agree. I agree wholeheartedly. I think, we have to take the opportunity to be in communities, even when there isn't an election or we're not asking for fundraising dollars. Because I think, in my opinion, I think it helps us create our own narrative versus letting somebody else dictate who we are. We're showing them who we are. We're showing up in your communities. We're showing up to your fundraising events for Johnny needing to go to Washington, D.C. on a field trip. We're showing up for all of that stuff. And that's the only way I think that we can actually change the narrative. The other thing I feel like, we are the Big Tent, and I don't care what nobody says. This is the Big Tent. Now I hear, y'all know I hear it. There are people who will always question the validity of that Big Tent, but I tell people all the time, we're not like that other party who has this inaugural DEI class. We actually have caucuses at the table having conversations. Mila, talk about the important, and Mike, you too, talk about the importance of all of our constituency caucuses and how they are infiltrating and getting out into the communities and doing the work.
Absolutely. It's so funny. I just feel like, Mike and I, hit the ground running no sooner than we got elected. I mean, that's the simplest way to say it is we hit the ground running. And that's what we have to do. That's what we have to do. And I think it's, again, talking about, Chairman Schmull's vision. Part of his vision was to make sure that we had a deputy chair that would represent like candidates, right? We have a deputy chair that's representing the rural, communities, agriculture, right? So I think it's important that we be everywhere that we possibly can be. And I think the vision that Chairman Schmull has for the party going forward, uh, that is definitely a plus because we need to let Democrats know that we're there for them, that
Mm-hmm.
we support them, that we care about them, and what Democrats are doing and why we should be proud Democrats today,
Absolutely.
because it
Absolutely.
really should be. And also holding the Republicans accountable. So back to the vision and how we're implementing the vision, all that plays a part of it. And I really, really believe that, you know, we can turn Indiana blue.
I think
I
so too.
believe that. I believe that. And I just think it's going to take a little bit of creativity, a little more work, hard work. But I strongly believe that we can do it. And under the leadership of Chairman Schmall and the infrastructure that he has in place for Indiana Democratic Party and for Hoosier Democrats that we can do it.
Absolutely. It's not like it's been that long ago. I mean, I know for some people, 11, 12 years seems like a lifetime, but when you on this side of half a century, it ain't been that long. It's only been 15 minutes. You know what I'm saying? We have the blueprint on how to turn Indiana blue. And a part of that, like you said, is engaging these communities and making sure that they understand, their importance in getting connected, doing what they do best. One of the things that I do, and I love doing it when I started it when I was deputy chair, is the power of the black vote, and then it's morphed into the power of the black and brown vote, because a lot of times in certain communities they don't think the party is down for them, and so we've shown them, and we have that articulation of, look, this is where we are, and this is why you're the party. So when you complain about the party, you are the party. So get on in the party. And a part of that is our messaging, right? We have to craft a message that makes sense. Now, one of the things that I know I'm guilty of, I know that I'm smarter than most Republicans. And I have a tendency to go a little long in my explanation about how much smarter I am. Tell us about the messaging that you guys are crafting for the next, election cycle, and how you're implementing that with candidates who will eventually be on the general election ballot.
Yeah, that's a great point. And want to answer that, but before that, I do want to follow up on the last one,
Mm-hmm.
which is constituency caucuses and deputy chairs. I think it's really important that we kind of have that inclusive approach, and that groups and people literally have a seat at the table
Right?
at the state central committee. And so I just jotted them down so I wouldn't forget anybody. But labor, um, they have seats at the table to vote. So talking about organized labor, voices of working men and women, so important in every election, and particularly right now when there's so many shifts in the economy because of COVID and other issues. Um, Stonewall LGBTQ Hoosiers. I mean, um, I'm very honored that I ran the first campaign in American history where a gay person was awarded delegates to a national convention.
Excuse me, point of privilege. I was the first African American president of the Indiana Stonewall Democrats. Okay, I just get it that way. I
There
just
we
get that.
go. There
Okay.
we go. There we go. First all around. I'm like the first nothing. I'm just like, maybe first ginger to have
Are
like
you the
chairmanship
first
in
redhead?
like 75 years or
Are you the
something
first
like that.
redhead?
I don't know. I don't know. Well, I don't know. Probably black and white photos. We'd have to look back, but that's a huge, it's a huge constituency to have at the table. And then you mentioned, Dana, IDAC,
Mm-hmm.
African American caucus, pillar of the Democratic Party, Latino caucus, um, Latinos in Indiana. Really, probably the main reason why we didn't lose a congressional seat in the last census.
That's dope.
8.2% of our population in the state are Latino Hoosiers, and so we as a party need to build more ways, and we are to communicate with that group as well, to get them engaged and voting with us. And then the other two are college and YDs.
Mm-hmm.
And Mila and I talked with them both recently, but making sure that Hoosiers in colleges across Indiana are engaged and feel like they can volunteer. There's maybe a future for them as an intern, a fellow, a staffer, a campaign operative, right? Or eventually running for office on their own. So the college Dems and the YDs do a really good job of engaging that community. And I want to increase the pipeline, not just of our candidates, but of our young people
Right.
get involved in politics, because it worked for me. And, I think that if other folks seize those opportunities, they can do some great things. So on our message, it's another reason why I took the job was, and Mila mentioned Frank O'Bannon and Joe Kernan. Joe Kernan's the last Democratic governor,
Mm-hmm.
former mayor of South Bend, somebody that I knew, a friend of mine in this community. And he passed away not that long ago.
Mm-hmm.
But I grew up in an Indiana that was so more balanced, and kind of fair at every level.
Mm-hmm.
Federal, state, local. Federally, it was like I grew up and it was like, oh, Dick Lugar and Evan Bayh are our senators. Boom, one's D, one's R, right? And then we had Democratic governors. We've
Mm-hmm.
had Democratic governors for about half my lifetime, Republican governors for about the other half. And then at the state house level, John Gregg, Pat Bauer, um, those gentlemen have been Democratic speakers of our House, right? And so, Democrats have had power and have had more balance in our politics over the last, decades. But we've just been skewed over the last 10 years.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And, there's a lot of reasons for that. Redistricting, media, Trump, all of that. And I fully understand that. But I think deep down, Hoosiers want a government that is more balanced and that delivers for them. And you get
Absolutely.
better ideas and you get better
Absolutely.
legislation. So what I'm
Absolutely.
getting, so what I'm getting at is the message piece is on their side. It's kind of like, are they with Trump or are they with somebody else? Are they with Rakita or are they with Holcomb? Are they with the speaker who fancies himself a moderate, or are they with some extreme members of their state house or state
Jim
senate?
Lucas. Sorry.
Yeah. And so, while they're over there, there's lots of them, right? And
Yeah.
they want to have more offices, more power. They're kind of having a race to the side to see who can be more extreme potentially. And you see it in what they say, you see it in what they do. And so, where I'm getting at, Dana, is on our side, I want us to be that big, bold, broad, diverse, welcoming party
Mm-hmm.
that is, has common sense,
Mm-hmm.
uses facts,
Mm-hmm.
talks to people in their communities,
Mm-hmm.
delivers for people on issues, talks about why it helps them in their daily lives,
Mm-hmm.
and engages them year round to get them voting and to get them engaged in the democratic process more than they have been. And it can be done. I mentioned the balances that we've had over the last few decades, but Barack Obama won Indiana not that long ago.
Not that long ago.
And when I joined Joe's staff in '09, we had it was a 5-4 Democratic congressional majority,
Mm-hmm.
with two Democratic congressmen in the southern part of our state. And so it can be done, and it's not going to happen overnight. But we have put in some of the foundational pieces, I think, this year to help build back better, as Joe Biden says, and guide our strategy over the next few years.
Yeah, and that's good because what I'm hearing is that our message is about how we can uplift families, how we can improve lives,
Hmm.
and we're trying to counteract a very very strong messaging of fear. There's a lot of
Yeah.
fear that comes from that other side, and people react strongly to fear. Like you said, I'm like you, Mike. I can go anywhere in the state of Indiana. I go to Lawrenceburg. I'll go down to Ohio County. I've been, and the one thing that you find is that you have more in common with people than you have differences. It's just the level of melanin in many cases that's the different, and maybe the hair texture. But for the most part, all of us, yeah, lived experiences. I'm not, but for the most part, we want more for our families. We want more for our kids. We want the opportunity to go on vacation without going broke. You know what I'm saying? We don't want to just work. And so when you see these guys pushing all of these fear tactics, CRT, school board meetings have now turned into battlegrounds. It's frustrating to watch people go, "Oh, I don't want my kids learning CRT," but they're not teaching it. Talk to us about, it's chime in on how, the best tactics to get away from this nonsense, and how do we encourage like our school board members to not give up, to not succumb to the bullying the bullying tactics that are happening right now.
Yeah, it's a great point, and I think in addition to fear, and it's not a new playbook by any
No.
means. um, Especially from the far right, and especially very recently. Um, I think the average Hoosier and the average American, we've been through a lot over the last few years, and there's a global pandemic going on, and of course everybody wants to get back to normal, right?
Right.
We all want that as human
I
beings.
used to do interviews in person.
Um, yeah, 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 and and I think that like we've made so much progress on vaccinations and information and things like that, but we're still not where we need to be
Mm-hmm.
with the economy. COVID showed so many different things that are changing in our economy that you know, there's so many places hiring. People are leaving work to go work in other jobs. Wages are, in some cases, going up. Unions are,
Fighting back.
battling for more rights and striking in different places
Yes.
of the country and finding and solidifying their power. Um, you know, those are huge shifts as well. And so I think people see that, and it's sort of like COVID, the economy, schools, education, news. It's kind of topsy turvy, right? When at the end of the day, we, as you said, Dana, we all want the same things. We want to, raise families, be with loved ones and friends, be safe, be protected, find a job and things that we want to do with purpose, that give us joy, and at the end of the day, kind of retire with dignity. Thank you, Social Security, Medicare, right?
Man, all those social programs. Oh my goodness.
Right. And look back and say, I made a difference and I left the world a little bit better than how I found it.
That's it.
And so, yeah, it's tough. And I think what gets me, and something that I think about quite a bit, are two things. Number one is, and these are two things that we want to do at the state party. One is, there's no substitute for a face-to-face conversation with somebody. That, going up to somebody, talking with them, listening to them, looking them in the eye, talking about issues, talking about differences, talking about your stories, all of that. What I find when I talk to folks is that we have so much more in common than we have, contradictory to one another.
Right.
And so, I think that's why year-round organizing is so important, in our campaigns and in our politics. The other thing is a little bit harder and a little darker, but it's just all the misinformation, disinformation, conspiracy theories, fake news that's out there. That's their playbook. Is hey, look at this shiny object, and it's like, go over there.
There they go. And see, I'm a tech junkie, right? Excuse me. That's where I'm formally trained. But so I've seen the positive, the good side of technology, getting you connected, open you up to information, because we're no longer in the industrial age, we're in the information age,
right?
And getting all that stuff at the click of a button. But I've also seen the downside of how people are using the ability to touch so many so quickly with the wrong stuff, and people feed into that. And I'll be honest, y'all don't have to speak on this, but I'll be honest. What we see happening with the ability for misinformation to have an impact is the fact that we haven't focused on critical thinking. In schools, we're too busy worried about regurgitation for a test, right? You understand the dates and times, and you can regurgitate the dates and times, but you don't understand the nuances behind those dates and times and what happened to make those events occur. And I think that's where we're missing out on a lot of things, where we just want our kids to, can you answer the question on the test, versus, well, why is the question being asked in the first place, right? And CRT is just one of those issues. Mila, the other issue is we're sitting around fighting whether or not we can vote. You see all of these states passing all of these restrictive rules under the, and honestly, if anybody knew anything, this is the classic, the thing that people are studying in critical race theory. How do we create these systems that are inherently racist, but they don't say I'm a racist bill? Talk about the importance of making sure that kind of nonsense, and that we dispel that nonsense, and make sure that people understand that they got to go get registered to vote, and they got to go vote, and their vote matters.
Yeah. First of all, I just want to begin by saying that this is nothing new to us. I'm going to be honest with you. Maybe it's the fake news and the rhetoric from the previous presidential administration was just taking up a higher notch, but this isn't new for us. We've been having to deal with this. And in regard to the messaging, I think about what Michelle Obama said: when they go low, we go high. And that's what we have to maintain.
Did she mean an uppercut? No, she didn't mean that. She didn't mean that. Okay.
When they go low, we go high. And what does that mean? We have to stay on point with our messaging. We have to stay positive. Now, I will say this: yes, we do hold them accountable. Oh, yeah, we definitely do that. But what do? We continue to beat them up, I say, with our messaging, because our messaging is positive, because the Democrats are delivering.
Yeah. Yeah.
We are delivering. And that's what we've got to continue to pound every single day and tell everybody, get the message out that Democrats are delivering, because no Republicans voted for the rest of the American Rescue Plan, to my knowledge.
They have it. Well, first of all, these, it drives me crazy when I hear these people talk about people don't want to go back to work because they're lazy, when they may have to go to a crap job with crap pay, with crap hours, and then got to pay for daycare, right? All of these, they're calling them lazy. But can you find the hypocrisy in the fact that we are sending these people to Congress, we're sending them to the Senate, they are making six-figure salaries, and they don't even do their job. They don't even do their job. They don't. Mitch McConnell is probably the devil. We don't know it yet. We don't know it yet. He might be. Forget the orange dude. The orange dude was but the power we already know is Mitch McConnell out of Kentucky. He has his thumb on what the heck comes out of that Senate. Even though weird Chuck Schumer is supposed to be the leader, huh? Mitch McConnell has put a grip on that bad boy, and I would love for us to I'm nervous about getting rid of the filibuster. I know people talk about we should get rid of it, and I understand the historical context behind it, but we know the pendulum swings the other way. Of course, now that makes me nervous. So we talk about these bills that are in the Senate right now, and Joe Manchin and all of this stuff, but we do have this Build Back Better plan. And we did see where Nancy Pelosi, Speaker Pelosi, put back in paid medical leave. And we are and the president just mentioned last week, that we're the only industrialized nation in the world, that does not have paid medical leave. Talk about, what it would mean to get this Build Back Better plan in place with, the paid medical leave. Look, it started out at $6 billion or $6 trillion or whatever it was, and it's down to $1.7 trillion. Don't tell me progressives don't know how to compromise. There's been some compromise, but talk about what it means to get this in the communities like they need.
Yeah, it's huge, and I think Dana, to your point on how things work through Capitol Hill, and kind of how it gets morphed with our politics and the media that's out there. One thing that I remind folks all the time when I travel around the state and talk to journalists is, these are really popular packages.
Yes.
The American Rescue Plan is very popular. The infrastructure, bipartisan infrastructure package, which Mitch McConnell has actually voted for, also very popular. The Build Back Better agenda is very popular. Our system is just, it's not working properly, right? And there's a lot of issues for that, our democracy and our system, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so, you see our slim majorities, but what we're talking about and what we're debating on Capitol Hill and what we're talking about on these tours is hugely popular with people. And that's why we're going everywhere to talk to everybody. Just some examples. Broadband internet. There are 16, I think, % of Hoosiers who do not have access to internet in 2021.
Especially when our lieutenant governor for the last 6 years has been talking about, this is a high priority for me.
Right.
I want to get it out here, and she ain't done it.
Exactly. And so, what I'm going to articulate here, or what I'm going to list here, these are all things that, members of our Republican delegation have voted against. So broadband's one. Just a side note to that, 50% of folks in Indiana only have access to one service provider. There's no competition. It's just, this is who you have in your area, and you got to rock and roll. Right. You got to go with that, right? And so that's broadband. Childcare. 55% of Hoosiers live in a childcare desert, and don't have access to
55?
quality, adequate childcare for their children. Eliminating those deserts, paying childcare workers more, valuing that as a profession, I think would be huge. That's in the Build Back Better agenda. Jobs. I think 900,000 Hoosiers make less than $15 an hour. That's a really big chunk of our workforce. Yeah. And Governor Holcomb and other folks like to say that we got a great economy, we're really humming, we're a state that works. Well, what we say is we're a state that works for less.
Hello, say it again.
And that is not that it doesn't value sort of workers' rights, human dignity, making sure that people can live, the life that they want to live.
Quality of life. It's almost like it doesn't even matter, right? We're just
It's
we're just
huge.
you know putting together Oompa Loompas for the chocolate factory, and we don't care what kind of quality of life people have.
Yeah. And so those are a few other ones. I mean, the infrastructure package, roads, bridges, highways, more funding for our infrastructure. So, you know, that's just going to help our economy. It's going to
Right.
help our economy in so many different ways. It's going to help us move goods around. There's a lot of talk about the supply chain and everything. It's going to help us with that. It's also going to help with jobs and making sure that we have jobs that are really good paying, strong jobs to build an American economy for this century. And then the last two, one is rural, which, we're talking about in the small town tour quite a bit in the agriculture community and how we're delivering for them. But 80%, I think, of poverty in Indiana exists in rural communities,
Mm.
kind of out of view, folks don't see it every day and it's not really
Hmm.
covered in the news. This,
They wouldn't
this
be able to
bill.
see it anyway. They don't have internet.
Yeah, yeah, there you go. And so the agenda will start to fix that. And then lastly, the Indiana budget and our schools, which the budget passed this year and in such bipartisan fashion because of the American Rescue Plan.
Right?
And that's why it was bipartisan. That's why it was a strong piece of legislation. And we finally funded our public schools at levels where they need to be funded. And we finally gave our teachers and our educators a raise. That is not because Republicans,
We're benevolent.
crafted a brilliant budget and this was a priority of theirs. It's because of Joe Biden and Kamala Harris. Let's be honest. And so that's what's at stake. These are bread and butter issues. These are kitchen table issues for folks. And we got to share the news from the mountaintops. Although there's no mountains in Indiana, but you know what I mean.
Yeah, well, there's some decent sized hills, and I
Hoosier
think that's
Hill,
that's the
Hoosier
interest.
Hill.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Like, we really are about how do we improve lives, and we are about, okay. No, I hate the narrative that we're a tax and spend. Well, first of all, we ain't really been taxing like we should the people that need to be taxed, because anytime a multi-billion, multi-trillion-dollar business can get away with not pitching in when you're contributing to the deterioration of our infrastructure, right? How you
Right,
don't, your truck, your Amazon trucks going up and down the highway is tearing up the roads, but you ain't contributing to fixing them, right?
right,
And they're trying to, you squeeze as much as you can out of people and not put anything, you don't invest anything back into the people. That's the part that kills me. And we have this serious brain drain in Indiana, right? You came back, right? You were in DC working at the Post, but you were like, yo, I'm a Hoosier deep down inside. I got to go back to the Bend because that's where my people are. But a lot of people say, I'm not coming back here because I
right,
don't have a good quality of life. We still don't have a proper hate crimes legislation. We still wages are still stagnant. You got the right to work, which means right to work for less, as we talked about. And there's so many things that they're doing to make sure that you, as individuals, while they screaming individual rights, right, are not living your best life. And that's who we are. We want you to live your best life. And if you have some extra coins left over, cool. And I think I, I feel you, bro, because I've had this conversation. We have these conversations about how do we get people engaged, how do we get them involved, how do we
yeah,
motivate them into action. You're talking about going on these tours, and I have a list of tours, and I'm gonna read them off just real quick. So the small town tour, November the 9th, they will be in Du Bois County in Jasper, Indiana at 6 p.m. Your speakers are Jennifer McCormick, Kent Yeager, and Henry Fernandez, and Ray McCormick. On the same day in Jasper County in Wheatfield at 5 p.m., you're going to have your chairman Mike Schmuhl, Michael Lively, and November 11th in Fayette County, which is one of my favorite counties. I love Connorsville. They'll be there at 5:30, and your speakers will be Baron Hill, and Ed Delaney is scheduled to speak. So I will post that on the chat so that you guys can know where those are. Please contact your county chairs to find out exactly the location, because We ain't got time for haters. Haters be showing up when you least expect them to, and you don't want them to. And we trying to get a positive message out about who we are and what we want to do as Democrats. There's a lot of work that has to be done, y'all. Tell This is the call to action, right? If you like what these fellas are talking about, if you like what the direction of the party, click on the link, donate to the party. Because every time we do a show, we trying to figure out how we can raise some coins to support candidates. Tell people how they can get involved with the state party or any and be involved in this thing about the blue wave. How do they get involved, Mike? How do they get involved, Mila? Eminem.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing the donate link. That's something that I reminded Pete Buttigieg to do after every debate in 2020. Very important.
Absolutely.
But more important than that is finding out the best way to be involved. And for everybody individually around our state, that's something different. One of the things that I love about campaigns is that they really bring together people from all walks of life, all neighborhoods, all generations, all experiences into a common purpose, into a common goal. And I think that is really, really cool. Like when you visit an election or a campaign headquarters, like, GOTV weekend or right before, right? That's perfect time because everybody's there volunteering, kind of rowing in the same direction. So I think a few things. I think, we want to build this large organizing program that will be across the state next year. So there will be opportunities for folks to, apply for roles at the state party, to become organizers and work wherever they live around the state. So I think that's huge. If you want to run and be involved really kind of in the party foundation or the infrastructure of our party, you can do that. Just like Mila and I ran, there's a more localized way that you can run. And next year is the year to do it. You can run for precinct committee person in your precinct on the ballot.
I'll be running.
Campaign and talk to your neighbors. It's really an amazing democratic, I guess, small d, but big D too, way to be involved. And you then can organize in your community. You need to know your neighbors. You can tap into county party and state party resources. That's a really great way to be involved. Other things are, you can run for office. You can run for office locally. There's township. In 2023, there'll be municipal races. There are different ways to just run and put your name on the ballot if you want to serve your community in a kind of a bigger position in public service. There are, and then like I think volunteer opportunities with your county party, depending on where you are in Indiana. You've seen with our tours that these are really also events that we're organizing Democrats, we're organizing independents, we're organizing folks who, maybe have voted in Republican in the past, but are kind of, unsure about that decision.
Mm-hmm.
More events and things like that, like helping us organize those are ways to be involved and ways to roll up your sleeves. And everything matters. Everything makes a difference.
Absolutely. And Mila, tell them the importance of having women and people of color getting involved. Please just tell them. Tell them, Mila.
There's a couple things I just want to touch on before we go, Dana. Number one is we are the party that welcomes every ethnicity. Look, we have Jennifer McCormick.
Come on.
That will be part of our
she's educated.
On tour, talking about education. So we understand that sometimes you get a little sidetracked, but then you come over to the realization
right?
that Democrats is the best party. So I just want to throw that in there. Number two, I wanted to just mention, because, I've been talking about Chairman Schmuhl's vision, is that he has a vision, and this goes back to messaging and voting, because the rhetoric that we have been receiving and we got from the previous administration, our poll workers are scared.
Yeah.
They're scared to work the polls. So Mike has been talking about or forming a voter protection committee.
Nice.
Right? That will help during an election year to address, maybe an issue that might happen on election day at a polling location, right? With a poll worker. So I'm saying that to say, or share that to say that, again, we have a vision and it's a good vision. And with Chairman Schmuhl leading the troops, I think we're going to be just fine. And last but not least, I just would like to share um, everyone or encourage anyone, if you want more information about Indiana Democratic Party, go to the website, go to www.indims.org, I believe, or .com, and you can get all the information that you need about Indiana Democratic Party and what we're doing. And yeah, that's it.
I love it. Thank y'all so much for joining Indiana's on the Turn Left. Don't hang up just yet. Hey, guys, they gave you everything you needed to know about how to join the party and the things that they're working on, because you know what? We're stronger as a unit. We're stronger when we work together. We're not going to all agree on every little tidbit. And there are things called, compromises. I know some people don't like that word, but dog, there's no two people alike. So there's no way that everyone is going to agree. You got to find common ground. So come on over and help us out and trying to get our message out to the people so we can flip some seats in that state house. More importantly, because, you saw what's happening in Texas. It'll happen here. You see what's happening in Florida. It'll happen here. So do not sleep on this. All right. Now, next week, y'all know how much love, and that's the divine tapping me on my shoulder, telling me to be good, how much love I have for Representative Jim Banks up in District 3. He thinks his seat is safe. He's up there running around, praising this money that's coming to his community, but he voted against that money. Well, we got a candidate running in District 3, and I'm going to have him on next week. Make sure you tune in next week on Turn Left so you can hear from John Stevens, who is running for Congress in District 3. Now is the time to get involved. Now is the time to get to know who these folk are. We have a lot of work to do. And you see, I don't normally, highlight anybody during the primary season, but I'm sorry, this is my dude. He's running for re-election. J.D. Ford, make sure you find him. Find a way to support him. Yes, I'm supporting him early. But what I want to say is the new Senate district in Indianapolis, I think it's 46. There's, so far I know of, 3 women running in that district. And I am so proud and so excited that 3 women are like, yo, I'm coming to get this new seat. I love it. The only thing I ask is keep it classy, y'all, because we all Democrats. Keep it classy. We gonna support each other when it's all said and done. But I am excited that there's competition. Yes, competition is good, people. Competition is not bad. My representative told us that. Congressman Carson said competition is good. All right. So we got a lot to do. 2022 is here. Don't let Tuesday get you down. Don't let them people run you off a school board if you on a school board. If you need me, holla at Indiana's Own. I'll show up in my black pickup truck. You know I will. And let's talk about it. I will holla at y'all next week. Peace.